Bien, bonjour, bienvenue à toutes et à tous. Merci de nous rejoindre en salle de presse pour notre point de presse quotidien direct sur EBS. Nous sommes le mardi 16 juin. J'ai comme d'habitude quelques annonces à vous faire. Tout d'abord, je voudrais attirer votre attention sur l'annonce qui vient d'être faite par Twitter par le porte-parole du Conseil européen sur la tenue le lundi 22 juin d'un sommet entre l'Union européenne et la Chine par vidéoconférence, en présence bien entendu du président du Conseil européen, M. Charles Michel, et de la présidente de la Commission, Mme von der Leyen. Ensuite, j'ai quelques mises à jour en ce qui concerne l'agenda de la présidente pour cette semaine. Demain après-midi, la présidente interviendra en plénière du Parlement européen à l'occasion des débats sur les manifestations contre le racisme suite au décès de George Floyd, sur la préparation de la réunion du Conseil européen du 19 juin et sur les négociations en vue d'un nouveau partenariat avec le Royaume-Uni. Then let me share the agenda of the college meeting tomorrow. The college will discuss and adopt a communication on the EU vaccines strategy. It will support efforts to accelerate the development and availability of safe and effective vaccines in a coordinated way with EU member states. As you know, many elements in this strategy, in this context, have already been presented, particularly by Mrs. Kyriakides during her press conference after the health ministers' council meeting by video conference last Friday. Then the college will discuss the white paper on foreign subsidies, starting a reflection on how to ensure a level playing field in this area. This will also then be followed by an orientation debate on EU-China relations. And finally, the college will adopt a report on the impact of demographic change, which will give a picture of the long-term trends and their impact across Europe. This is for the college agenda tomorrow. I now call Marta to the podium, not to the podium, sorry, via screen, for an announcement on the investment plan for Spain. Marta.
Good afternoon. Indeed, we have some good news to share for small businesses in Spain today to help them in the post-coronavirus recovery. So the European Investment Bank has signed a 96 million euro guarantee agreement with Banco Sabadell in Spain. This will allow Banco Sabadell to provide loans worth a total of 576 million euros to around 1,400 small and medium-sized businesses. And some of these loans will also go to green projects such as energy efficiency, renewable energy, retrofitting commercial buildings, and lower emission agricultural equipment. And the EIB guarantee is backed by the European Fund for Strategic Investments, EFSI. More information on this will be found in our press release, which has been released online. Thank you.
Merci Marta. Et pour finir, un point sur les vidéoconférences du jour. Aujourd'hui, les ministres de la Défense tiennent une vidéoconférence pour débattre des priorités de l'Union européenne en matière de sécurité et de défense. La vidéoconférence est présidée par le haut représentant Josep Borrell avec la participation du commissaire Thierry Breton. Les points à l'ordre du jour sont l'engagement opérationnel de l'Union européenne, les différentes initiatives en matière de défense, ainsi que les ressources humaines et financières. Une conférence de presse est prévue à 13h, donc dans un peu moins d'une heure, avec le haut représentant, et nous vous demanderons d'adresser vos questions sur ces sujets à cette conférence de presse. Enfin, cet après-midi, le vice-président Maroš Šefčovič et le commissaire Johannes Hahn participeront à une vidéoconférence des ministres des Affaires européennes. Les ministres prépareront la vidéoconférence du Conseil européen de vendredi. Ils discuteront également de la proposition de la Commission concernant le plan de relance et le prochain budget européen. Michel Barnier informera les ministres de l'état des négociations avec le Royaume-Uni et une conférence de presse est prévue à 18h30. Voilà, cela m'amène à la fin de nos annonces pour aujourd'hui. Nous pouvons passer à vos questions et je vois que Epp a une question. Epp, you have the floor.
Hello, thank you very much. I would like to ask a question concerning ECA report today, which was quite critical concerning many big infrastructure projects, and I'm particularly interested in Rail Baltic because it says that Rail Baltic prognosis of traffic is too optimistic, and it could be that it's not economically sustainable project at all. What's the Commission's comment on that, and will it change somehow your attitude or policy concerning financing and practical matters?
Thank you, Ep. I pass the floor to Stefan on this.
Thank you very much. You hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Stefan.
Okay. Thank you very much for this question, Ep. Before I say a few things about the Rail Baltica project, let me maybe say a few things which I think are important in the context of this report. I would like to stress first that a high-performing infrastructure is the cornerstone of our single market, and that we need big and small infrastructure projects also to deliver on the Green Deal, especially in the context of the recovery. Now, it's very important to realize that large infrastructure projects are by definition complex in technical terms, environmental terms, financial terms, planning terms, granting of permits terms, and so on. Many people are involved, a high number of stakeholders. In addition, several member states are also involved, meaning different administrations, rules, and requirements. Now, we are working closely together with everybody to make sure that these 8 projects, which are audited by the court, will be operational by 2030. One of these 8 projects is the project that you referred to, Rail Baltica. Now, we believe that Rail Baltica is indeed an economically sustainable project which has a high European added value. This is, by the way, also the conclusion of a 2017 cost-benefit analysis, which was based on a very thorough analysis of combined freight and passenger traffic. This project has the potential to become a really new artery of Baltic and Finnish traffic flows. It will contribute to our efforts in decarbonizing transport, and it will promote rail as a sustainable alternative for passenger mobility for the whole Baltic region. And freight transport is also expected to contribute significantly. So yes, we believe that we have an economically very sustainable, important project with Rail Baltica. In terms of lessons learned, the court has made several recommendations. Some of them we accept, others we do not accept. But of course, whatever can be done to improve the work is always welcome. I would like to stress, however, that the Commission has already quite a lot of tools to ensure a good oversight of the projects which are funded under the Connecting Europe facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Are there other questions on this Court of Auditors report? I see 2 hands raised, but I'm not sure it's related to this. Alexander, is your question on this?
No, it's something different.
Okay, Odile. Okay, then we move to Odile, because she had raised her hand first. Odile, je te passe la parole. On me dit que tu as une mauvaise connexion aujourd'hui, mais essaye, si tu appuies sur le fameux bouton Speak.
Oui. Ok, ça va mieux comme ça?
Très bien, merci.
Ça va mieux? Ok. Oui, dans la mise en œuvre de la proposition de préachat et de commande groupée au niveau de l'Union, la Commission compte-t-elle sur l'Inde, souvent appelée la pharmacie du monde, pour la production et l'approvisionnement de vaccins Covid, non seulement à destination des pays en développement, mais de l'ensemble de l'Union européenne? Merci.
Tu as bien demandé si on comptait sur l'Inde.
Oui,
alors,
parce que
la chose à dire, oui, merci. On ne compte pas sur un pays, ce ne sont pas des accords de pays à pays. L'idée, c'est de négocier avec des entreprises afin que celle-ci puisse développer et produire des vaccins en Europe. Et donc, il ne s'agit pas de compter avec les autorités nationales d'un pays comme l'Inde ou avec des unités de production qui seraient en Inde, mais bien avec des producteurs de vaccins qui seraient en Europe. Voilà, je passe maintenant la parole à Alexander, puisqu'il avait levé la main. Alexander. Press speak.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Hi.
Yes, we can. Hi. Super. My question is on the interoperability of contact tracing apps following today's announcement. I wanted to first of all ask what the proposed timeline is for this European federated gateway by which the Commission will connect national app solutions. And kind of the second question related to that is also the Commission said in this press release that it will that this framework will enable interoperability between apps using this decentralized approach. Now we have with France and maybe Hungary also two countries that use a different approach. So is there any kind of timeline of how we could make also France and Hungary's apps interoperable? And also, is this even technically possible within the framework that the Commission put out today, or the e-health network? Yeah.
Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Johannes.
Yes, thank you, Alexander. Thank you for reading our material so attentively. Indeed, we have today published the technical specifications for interoperability of contact tracing apps which follow a decentralized approach, and that allows for these apps to communicate with each other. We have, for the moment, in Europe, 6 member states that have launched such a decentralized approach up. There's 11 more which have foreseen an app following this approach to be rolled out in the course of June, July. That, of course, you would need to clarify with the member states themselves, but so that would give you 17 in total. And on the other hand, you have a few member states who follow a different approach. You mentioned them in your question already. So on the timeline, the technical specifications that were agreed among member states in the e-health network with the support of the Commission allow for an immediate application. So you could now, as soon as member states are ready with their apps, and as soon as these apps are slightly adapted to take this into account, start bilateral exchanges. Now, this is possible. As I just mentioned, there's not so many apps yet out there, but in the medium term, the Commission will support this with a gateway service. This is a centralized server which will basically fetch the information and dispatch it. That would reduce data consumption for the individual, for the user. The work on this is starting now. It will be set up in the course of the coming weeks. There will be a pilot with 4 member states participating. And then after this pilot, this will be rolled out to all other member states. I'm not in a position to now exactly tell you an exact date today when this will happen. We expect the setup of the gateway and so that the trial can start to take roughly 3 weeks. But I mean, it's not only programming, it's also all kinds of testing, obviously. It's important that all these exchanges are secure, that they are encrypted, they're in line with the toolbox that we published, with the data protection guidelines that we published, that all this information is, of course, always pseudonymized, so that means it's only identifiers which are arbitrarily attributed, so which do not allow tracing, or identification of an individual. So all this needs to be in place, and then it will be gradually rolled out, as I already mentioned.
Thank you, Johannes. Are there any other questions on this issue? I see that Tommaso has just raised his hand, but not sure it's on this issue. Tommaso?
Yes, it's on this.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, just a simple question. You just said that there is going to be a pilot project. So which countries are going to be involved in this pilot project? Thank you.
this is information which concerns member states, so I would normally prefer to give this to you bilaterally. But since you ask it here, I can tell you that what we hear for the moment is that Germany would be involved, Ireland, the Netherlands, and Poland, while 2 of these countries did not launch their apps yet. So it's, as I said, it's in the making. Huh? What's important is that we now have the technical parameters, that we have like a blueprint for this to function, for the server to be set up, the way, and then that we can then put it into motion.
Okay, thank you. I don't know. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Eric. Sorry, Alexander, I think I did not reply to your question on how to link decentralized and centralized, what the timeline for that is. Unfortunately, I have no timeline. As we say in the press release, we are working on this. Basically, we continue our support, to provide our support to member states in the working groups of the eHealth networks. There were 3 working groups set up, and 1 is exactly on this question. So the work continues, but it's a complex technical question, so I'm not in a position to give you a timeline.
Thank you. I see 2 hands raised. Jim, is your question on this? Hi, Jim. Is
Sorry,
it?
it's not. It's on another issue.
Okay, so we'll come back to you at a later stage. So then I move to Stefan, whether it's on this or on another issue.
No, it's not on this.
But go ahead. You have the floor nevertheless. Merci.
Yes, j'ai une question concernant une usine de fabrication d'antibiotiques. En fait, c'est une usine Sandoz, oui, qui fait partie de Novartis en Autriche, au Tyrol. Et apparemment, il y a eu des discussions. Et apparemment, c'est la seule qui produit de l'antibiotique en Europe. Et vu qu'on parle beaucoup de souveraineté européenne concernant les médicaments actuellement. Apparemment, il y a des discussions entre le gouvernement autrichien et la Commission, comment on pourrait garder la production en Autriche. Est-ce que vous êtes au courant de ça et qu'est-ce que vous pouvez dire là-dessus? Quelles seront les options pour venir à l'aide de cette production, de garder cette production en Europe? Merci.
Stéphane, si je comprends bien, tu parles de discussion entre les autorités autrichiennes et cette entreprise. Donc, je ne vois pas en quoi la Commission est impliquée. J'ai mal compris, peut-être. Vas-y. Vas-y.
Entre le gouvernement autrichien et la Commission européenne.
Ah, pardon.
Entre vous et Vienne.
Je ne pense pas que nous ayons d'informations à ce sujet, en tout cas pas du côté de la DG Concurrence. Je vais voir avec Stéphane si lui a des informations, mais nous n'avons pas évoqué ce sujet jusqu'à là. Stéphane ?
Non, en effet, je n'ai pas des informations là-dessus. Je devrais vérifier de mon côté aussi.
Voilà, donc nous reviendrons vers toi. Si tu peux nous fournir des informations plus spécifiques peut-être à Stéphane et à Rihanna, et on va revenir vers toi de manière bilatérale. Okay, then let me move to Jim. You have the floor, Jim.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'd just like to ask why it is we're not getting a press conference today on the launch of the Commission's trade policy review, given that it's an initiative which Commissioner Hogan himself has underlined as very important for his mandate in recent weeks. Also, when a press conference was envisaged, it didn't involve Commissioner Hogan, who is the EU Trade Commissioner. So is it just possible to explain to us why the Commission changed its thinking on this? Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jim, for this question. Well, this follows the announcement which had been made some days ago by Commissioner Hogan that he was considering a bid for the post of Secretary General of the WTO. In the context of that announcement on him considering a bid, the Commission decided to, in agreement with him, to apply a certain number of measures, one of which is that he would refrain from public appearances that might distract from the subjects at hand. And the second, which is to apply with immediate effect what is called the 4 eyes principle, on policy proposals for which he would be responsible, negotiating positions in trade negotiations or decisions that he takes on behalf of the institution. So ultimately, this conference is not taking place. He had already an engagement with the Florence Institute to present the trade policy review. He will be simply making a speech to present the text of the trade policy review and questionnaire, which is going to be issued. And you have a press release on the issue, which has also just been published. Sorry? Jim, you have a follow-up question?
Yes, yeah, I do. Thank you very much. Can you, you see me okay? Yeah, no, thank you very much for that explanation. That really helps. As you mentioned yourself, Commissioner Hogan is currently doing a public appearance, making a public appearance, discussing exactly this initiative. So would it be possible to clarify for me what the difference is between him doing that and him appearing in the press room, just really to help me understand what the restrictions are on him in his current role, because obviously that's a very relevant question. Like what can the EU's trade commissioner do and not do in the coming weeks now they are a prospective candidate for the WTO position?
You're absolutely right. Well, he's not discussing the trade policy review, he's presenting the trade policy review. He will simply be giving a speech, but there is no Q&A session which is foreseen. Let me add, of course, that he continues fully in his role as Trade Commissioner. This is very important. He remains completely committed to his role. In fact, he will be going later, I believe in the month of July, to the European Parliament to discuss with members of the European Parliament this trade policy review. So it's not at all that there are limits to his activity as Commissioner, but simply a certain number of simple precautionary measures which are perfectly understandable in the current context. All right, let's move on. I would now like to pass the floor to Tommaso.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for the floor. It's a question for competition, if I may. Tomorrow is the deadline for the Commission to decide on the merger between FCA and PSA from Italy and France, respectively. I wonder if the Commission has received any reassurances or clarifications about the details of the merger. I've read that there are concerns concerning the minivans in particular. If you can tell anything about that, that would be helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. This is a question for Ariana.
Hi, Tommaso. As you rightly said, the deadline is tomorrow, and I'm afraid that before tomorrow I will not be able to say much on the case, unfortunately.
Apologies for that, but you know the drill, Tommaso, I'm afraid. Okay, let's move on. Samuel.
Bonjour Eric, ma question est en rapport à la protection de l'environnement et au coronavirus. Depuis plusieurs semaines, maintenant que le port du masque est vraiment généralisé, on voit de plus en plus de masques jetables dans les rues, au bord des plages, dans les montagnes. Et je me demande si la Commission a prévu une stratégie pour encourager la production de masques recyclables dans le cadre de sa stratégie de lutte contre le virus.
Alors, une question pour peut-être Viviane, mais j'avoue que je ne suis pas sûr que nous ayons une réponse à te fournir maintenant. Nous ne sommes pas responsables nous-mêmes, bien entendu, de la production de quoi que ce soit, comme tu le sais. Mais je vais voir si Viviane a des éléments éventuels à apporter à ce sujet. Viviane. If you can connect. Viviane semble avoir des problèmes à se connecter. Et donc, je propose que nous revenions vers toi bilatéralement. Ah non, voilà.
Est-ce que vous...
Yes.
Ah, pardon. OK.
Vas-y.
Merci, désolée pour ça. Donc, jusqu'ici, la Commission a véritablement concentré tout notre travail sur comment faire sorte que les pays membres ont les masques et que tous les citoyens soient protégés, etc. En ce qui concerne la pollution, à travers tout ce qui est à l'usage unique, évidemment, comme vous savez, nous avons la directive sur ce qui concerne le plastique à usage unique. Les masques ne sont pas couverts par cette directive puisque la directive ne concerne pas tout ce qui est pour l'utilisation médicale. Donc, c'est là où nous sommes pour le moment. Notre priorité a été plus dans le domaine de faire sorte que les masques soient là pour les citoyens européens. Et évidemment, ça c'est quelque chose qui est aussi, disons, une manière des habitudes et des contrôles de chaque personne de mettre les masques dans les poubelles prévues pour ça, etc. Ça, c'est quelque chose que je pense chacun comme un bon citoyen doit penser. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, je passe maintenant la parole à Mas. Mas, il faut appuyer sur Speak. Il se peut que ton micro ne soit pas branché sur la bonne source. Donc, il faut que tu vérifies dans l'application si tu es connecté à la bonne source. En attendant que tu essayes de résoudre le problème, y a-t-il d'autres questions pour nous aujourd'hui? Ah, Samuel. De nouveau.
Oui, Eric, tu m'entends de nouveau?
Oui.
Oui, une question affaires étrangères. La Maison-Blanche a invité les leaders de la Serbie et du Kosovo à Washington ce mois-ci dans l'espoir de faire avancer les négociations sur la normalisation de leurs relations. Est-ce que vous avez un commentaire à apporter à cette invitation? Est-ce que c'est quelque chose que vous considérez comme un pas important?
D'accord. Je pense que c'est pour Peter ou Anna. Peter.
Oui, bonjour. Oui. Normalement, nous répondons à ces questions en anglais, mais si vous demandez en français, je réponds
en français, Peter.
Aussi.
Français.
Oui. Mais je pense aussi sur les journalistes dans la région qui sont dans la plupart anglophones, mais on peut utiliser l'interprétation.
They have interpretation in the application.
Oui. D'accord. Donc, nous souhaitons, nous toujours sommes très positifs sur toutes les initiatives qui sont faites avec l'intention de soutenir le processus de dialogue entre la Serbie et le Kosovo, qui est facilité par l'Union européenne. Le représentatif spécial de l'Union européenne, Miroslav Lajčák, est en train d'arriver à Pristina aujourd'hui, cet après-midi, pour discuter avec les partenaires sur place les modalités de recommencer le dialogue et aussi faire proposition sur les dates de ces résumptions de dialogue. Comme vous savez, le dialogue entre Pristina et Belgrade est facilité par l'Union européenne. Nous avons un représentatif spécial qui est chargé de faire ça au nom de l'Union européenne. Et nous sommes déterminés, nous continuons à avoir cette détermination de procéder et continuer notre rôle comme le facilitateur de dialogue entre Pristina et Belgrade.
Merci, Peter. Alors, je passe maintenant la parole à David Caretta.
Oui, merci Eric. Juste une précision par rapport au sommet Union européenne. Qui va être la contrepartie chinoise présente
Alors David, ça c'est une question qu'il faut que tu poses à la contrepartie chinoise. Ce sont eux qui sont l'hôte de cette réunion. Il leur revient d'annoncer qui participera à cette réunion de leur côté. Donc nous ne sommes pas en mesure pour le moment, pour des raisons évidentes de courtoisie, de répondre à cette question à la place de la partie chinoise. Voilà, je ne vois plus qu'une main levée pour le moment. Stéphane, je te repasse la parole. Peut-être que tu as oublié de baisser ta main. Non?
No.
Alors vas-y.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you
Yes.
loud and clear.
Sorry, I will ask in English to help Peter pass his message. Because I had a follow-up on the previous question on Kosovo. I mean, he praised all the efforts of the European Union to facilitate the dialogue, but the American initiative, it looks as it would endanger this dialogue or make this dialogue impossible for the future if the two sides achieve some kind of agreement in Washington, which is not possible to implement in the region, or which might provoke or destabilize the region. So what's your reaction on this interference? Thank you.
So Peter, now you
Thank
get
you,
to speak in
Stefan.
English.
Now you get to speak in English. Thank you. Or in Serbian or in Albanian. Now, on this question, Stefan, that's up to the interpretation. As I said, we are basically seeing very positively any initiative that could help us to move ahead, that could support the EU facilitated dialogue. We've been saying all along that we are facilitator of this dialogue between the two parties, but any help from all the partners which are sharing the same objective is welcome. Because in the Western Balkans, we have the shared objectives with the United States, and it was mentioned also yesterday during the video conference between the EU foreign ministers and Secretary Pompeo, where the EU side was very strong and very clear in expressing full support and confidence in the EUSR Miroslav Lajčák and his efforts to restart the dialogue, and where we were stating both sides that the Western Balkans is area where we pay a lot of attention because we want to help the stabilization of the region, the reform processes in the region, because in the end, these countries aspire to join the European Union. The future of these countries is European. And the road to this future, or to make this future reality for the people, leads through the EU facilitated dialogue. So whatever can help to move it forward is a positive thing, and we see it as a positive support of this EU facilitated dialogue. And on the other part of your question, if they agree something which might not be acceptable, etc., that's speculation. I mean, both parties are very well aware that their future is European and that they are aspiring to join the European Union. So I don't think they would agree something that would prevent them to achieve this strategic objective, which is expression of the desires of their populations. They are close to Europe. They want to be in Europe. So we would assume that they do everything that brings them closer to the EU.
Thank you, Peter. I see one hand raised, I suppose on external relations, Jayakina. Press.
Yes, do you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, okay. Peter, from your words, we have kind of an impression that American envoy is only backing your work, while yesterday it was so obvious that you were caught by surprise and you had no idea that the meeting of 27th of June will happen. So is it fair to say that there are now two parallel processes of dialogue on normalization of relations, one in Washington and one in Brussels?
Thank you. As I said, interpretation is free for everyone to choose, like depends on how you want to see the events and the sequence of events and the actions. What is important for us, apart from announcements, is implementation on the ground, follow-up to anything that is announced. So the real situation, the real results on the ground. When you look at the efforts of the EU in the region, I think we can say that there are like really sustainable and firm and concrete and tangible results, apart from the fact that over the last 20 years, we invested more than 2 billion euros in Kosovo specifically. So this is like one concrete example and sign of what we are doing and how determined we are to bring the Kosovo closer to its aspiration of about European future. And what we are doing is focusing on the EU facilitated dialogue. Kosovo and Serbia know that the only way for them to move forward towards the EU is by normalizing their relations. When they started this process in 2011, it was facilitated by the EU. The EU is facilitating the dialogue right from the start, and we continue to be determined to do it, this role, as long as it's required by both parties. Whatever they do, apart from this EU facilitated dialogue, is their own decision. And if it can be conducive to move them forward towards the objective, which is the normalization, and living up to their European ambitions, then it's only positive. So, but the role of the EU was very clearly defined as the EU facilitator of the dialogue. This is what we are doing and trying to help the parties to move forward. And this is the reason why the EUSR for this region was nominated and for this topic of the dialogue. And with the full backing of the whole EU, is doing his work very intensively and right now even on the ground, because he's scheduled to arrive to Pristina anytime soon, I mean this afternoon.
Thank you, Peter. I think we have some... You have a follow-up.
I have a follow-up. Just to clarify, Peter, while you are facilitating the dialogue, Americans are brokering an agreement, which is highly likely to happen on June 27. Now, after this agreement, what happens to Brussels dialogue? Are you continuing business as usual, no matter what happens to Washington, or two processes are interconnected?
Peter.
Press the speak button. Yes, I just did. So I wouldn't go into speculations into what happens in Washington next week or the week after. As I said, whatever the announcements, what is important is the result, the final agreement or whatever is agreed, whatever is being done in terms of follow-up and developments after the announcement. That's one thing. But then, as I said, the EU is facilitating the dialogue right from the start. The European future of Kosovo leads through the European facilitated or EU facilitated dialogue. There's no way around it. So whatever might be agreed on the sidelines or on the sides or in different formats, etc., will fit into the EU facilitated dialogue, because this is the main platform for both Serbia and Kosovo to get closer to their final agreement, normalization of relations, and moving ahead on their European path with the objective to join the EU eventually.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Let's move to Christian. Tu as la parole, Christian.
Oui, merci. Je suis arrivé en retard, alors peut-être que le sujet a été déjà abordé, mais hier, Joseph Borrell a lâché au détour de sa conférence de presse qu'on aurait un sommet UE-Chine lundi prochain.
Ah, tu es en retard, effectivement, Christian. Nous avons déjà évoqué cette question. J'ai effectivement confirmé le fait que le porte-parole du Conseil européen avait confirmé la tenue du sommet UE-Chine en présence du président du Conseil européen et de la présidente de la Commission européenne lundi prochain. Voilà. C'est bon, merci. Catherine, over to you. In French, perhaps. Allez, vas-y, lance-toi, Catherine.
Not before 3 o'clock.
Tim is listening to you.
I'm afraid my question is on Brexit.
Go ahead.
And the joint statement yesterday of the parties, where they agreed that they wanted to have new momentum, that new momentum was required, and that this should include an understanding on the principles underlying any agreement, an early understanding of the principles, which would suggest that the EU is willing maybe to look at negotiation directives or maybe to plan for a lesser agreement. But when Michel Barnier addressed the press room after the fourth round, he said he thought that there was enough room within the current negotiating directives for compromise. So I'm just wondering if you could clarify where we are and what happens next.
Okay, thank you. This is a question for Daniel.
Hi, Catherine. How's it going? On the statement that was published yesterday, I mean, there's no hidden meaning behind it. It is what it is. We are both committed to reaching a deal. As you know, we have agreed to intensify the negotiations as of the end of June, and those negotiation dates have been announced. That's all I'll be able to say now. Of course, we're going to negotiate to reach a deal on the basis of our mandate and on the basis of our principles, and they have not changed.
Thank you. Let me say that I'm slightly disappointed, Catherine. Had you asked your question in French, Daniel would have had to answer in French as well. We would have had two Irishmen or Irish citizens speaking to each other in French in the press room. That would have been an ultimate success, but we will try another time. Are there other questions for us today? I do not see any, so thank you very much, and see you tomorrow for the college readout. Have a nice afternoon.